She was too big. Just sit down, the rancher said before she saw what was underneath. Maria sat quietly in the back of the small pickup truck as it bounced along the dusty road. She had never been to a ranch before, never really spent much time outside the city, and her heart was a mixture of excitement and fear. The trees on either side of the road blurred past, their shadows stretching over the cracked asphalt like dark fingers. Every few minutes she glanced out the window at the wide fields that seemed to go on forever. There was something calming about the openness, something that made her chest feel a little lighter, even though her mind was still full of doubts. She had always loved animals. Ever since she was a little girl, she remembered sneaking into her neighbor's yard to watch the horses graze, to listen to the low, rhythmic sound of their hooves on the ground, to smell the soft sweetness of hay and soil. But she had never imagined that she would actually get the chance to work with horses herself. And now, here she was, heading to a ranch far outside the city, trying to convince herself that she belonged there. Her stomach fluttered as she thought about the first time she would meet Hank, the rancher. She didn't know much about him except that he was known to be kind but strict, a man who had run the ranch for decades. She had read some articles online about his ranch, about how he rescued abandoned horses and trained them to trust humans again. That was part of the reason she had applied for this opportunity. She wanted to learn. She wanted to challenge herself. But she also felt the weight of her insecurities pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. For as long as she could remember, people had commented on her size. Teachers, classmates, strangers in the grocery store, and even family members had made remarks, sometimes jokingly, sometimes harshly. She had spent years hiding, avoiding mirrors, avoiding situations where people might stare. Now, sitting in the truck with the warm sun streaming through the window, she wondered if those old fears would come back. Would she be able to do what was expected of her? Could she ride the horses, lift the heavy equipment, and keep up with the demands of ranch life? The truck slowed, turning onto a narrow dirt path that led to a wide wooden gate. Beyond it, the ranch stretched in every direction. Rolling green fields dotted with wildflowers, barns painted a soft red, and horses grazing lazily under the sun. The sight took Maria's breath away. It was more beautiful than she had imagined. The air smelled fresh, earthy, and full of life. For a moment, she almost forgot her fears. The truck stopped near a large barn, its doors open to reveal the scent of hay and the soft noises of animals moving inside. Hank was waiting by the gate, a tall man with a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his face, and clothes that had clearly seen years of hard work. He looked strong, but his eyes had a gentle, welcoming warmth. When he saw Maria, he tipped his hat slightly and smiled. "You must be Maria," he said in a calm voice that somehow made her nervous and reassured at the same time. "Welcome to the ranch. We've been expecting you." Maria stepped down from the truck, her shoes crunching on the gravel. She tried to stand tall, but her nerves made her shoulders stiff. Hank extended a hand, and she shook it, feeling the rough texture of his palm. "It's nice to meet you," she said softly. "You too." "Come on, let me show you around," Hank said. His voice was steady like the ground beneath her feet. "Don't worry about anything for now, just follow me." As they walked toward the barn, Maria took in the surroundings. There were horses of every color, brown, black, white, even a few spotted ones, moving calmly around the paddocks. Chickens clucked and pecked at the ground, and a few dogs ran past, wagging their tails. She could hear the distant sound of a creek, water trickling over rocks, and the occasional cry of a hawk from above. Hank opened the barn door and gestured for her to enter. Inside, the smell of hay was stronger, comforting somehow, mixed with the faint, sweet scent of the horses themselves. Maria could see them standing quietly in their stalls, some chewing on hay, others nuzzling each other gently. Her heart beat faster. She wanted to run her hands through their coats to feel the strength and warmth of the animals, but she felt awkward. "First things first," Hank said, noticing her hesitation. "We need to get you familiar with the horses and the barn. You'll spend a lot of time here. The key is patience and observation. Watch them, listen to them, and learn their ways. You'll be fine." Maria nodded, but she felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But the fear of being too big for this, of being clumsy, of failing, whispered in her mind. She remembered past experiences, times she had tried something new and been laughed at or criticized, and she felt that familiar anxiety creeping back. Hank seemed to notice. He didn't laugh or scold her. Instead, he led her to a large saddle sitting on a wooden rack. It was big, much bigger than she expected. She instinctively stepped back. "Just sit down," Hank said softly. "You'll see, it's made to support you." "It's built for strength just like you." Maria hesitated. She felt the old doubts rising. What if she couldn't do it? What if she fell? What if everyone here thought she was too heavy or too slow? Hank seemed to sense her fear, but he didn't push. He just waited patiently, letting her gather her courage. Taking a deep breath, Maria stepped forward. She touched the saddle, feeling the smooth leather beneath her fingers. It smelled rich, earthy, and strong. Her hands trembled slightly, but she forced herself to focus. She reminded herself why she was here, to learn, to grow, to face her fears. Hank guided her gently, showing her how to adjust the straps and how to position herself. Maria listened carefully, following every instruction, trying not to let her anxiety take over. When she finally swung her leg over the saddle, she felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. The horse beneath her, a large brown mare with calm eyes, shifted slightly but then stood steady. "You're doing fine," Hank said quietly. "Just sit and breathe, trust yourself." Trust her? Maria closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. She felt the strength of the horse beneath her, the warmth of its body, and the steady rhythm of its breathing. For the first time, she felt a tiny spark of confidence. Maybe she could do this. Maybe she wasn't too big. Maybe she could be capable, strong, and graceful, just like she had always wanted to be. They spent the rest of the morning walking around the barn, Maria learning to groom the horses, feed them, and clean their stalls. Hank guided her patiently, correcting her gently when she made mistakes, praising her efforts when she succeeded. With every small task, Maria felt a little lighter, a little more capable. She realized that her fears were mostly in her mind, that the horses didn't care about her size. They only responded to her care, patience, and respect. By midday, Maria felt tired but happy. Her arms ached from brushing the horses, her legs from climbing in and out of the saddles, but there was a sense of accomplishment she hadn't felt in a long time. Hank smiled at her as they finished the chores. "You did well today," he said simply. "Remember, this work isn't about being small or light. It's about heart, patience, and persistence. You've got all three." Maria felt a warmth spread through her chest. She still had doubts, still had insecurities, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she belonged somewhere. She realized that this ranch, with its wide open fields, gentle horses, and quiet wisdom, was going to teach her more than just how to ride or care for animals. It was going to teach her how to trust herself, how to face her fears, and how to embrace who she was without shame or apology. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the fields, Maria looked out over the land and felt a deep sense of peace. She still had a long journey ahead, and she knew there would be challenges, but for the first time, she believed she could meet them. The ranch, Hank, and the horses were not just a new adventure. They were a chance for her to grow, to learn, and to finally see herself in a new light. And as she prepared to leave the barn for the day, she smiled to herself, thinking of Hank's words. "Just sit down." You'll see, she had sat down, she had started, and she was ready for whatever came next. The morning sun shone softly over the ranch, casting long shadows across the paddocks. Maria arrived early, carrying a small bag with her gloves, a brush, and a notebook she had started keeping about her experiences. She had spent the night thinking about the day ahead. Yesterday had been exciting, but she knew that today would be different. Today she would face her first real challenge, riding the horses outside the safety of the barn. Hank was already at the stable when she arrived, checking the water troughs and making sure the fences were secure. His hat shaded his face, but his eyes lit up when he saw her. "Good morning, Maria. Ready for the next step?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Maria swallowed hard, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. I think so," she said. Her voice was small, almost unsure, but there was determination behind it too. She had made it through yesterday, and she refused to let fear control her again. Hank nodded and led her to Blue, the gentle Percheron mare she had met yesterday. Blue stood quietly, nuzzling the hay in her stall. Maria approached slowly, running her hand along the horse's neck. She felt the soft warmth of her coat and heard the slow, steady breathing that seemed to echo the rhythm of her own heartbeat. "Today, we're going out into the field," Hank explained. "We'll start slow. You'll walk first, then trot a little if you're comfortable. The key is balance and trust, not just in the horse but in yourself." Maria nodded, her nerves tightening into a small knot in her stomach. She remembered her fears, the voice in her head that whispered, "You're too big, you can't do this." You'll fall." She shook her head slightly, trying to push those thoughts away. She had come here to learn, to grow, and she was not going to let old insecurities stop her. Hank adjusted the saddle and helped Maria settle in. "Just sit down like we practiced. Take a deep breath and let your body relax. Blue will feel your confidence and she'll respond to it." Maria took a deep breath and swung her leg over the saddle. At first, her balance felt shaky and she gripped the reins a little too tightly. Blue shifted her weight under her and Maria's stomach flipped. She took another breath and remembered Hank's words, "Trust yourself, trust her." Slowly, she loosened her grip and let her body adjust. Blue's large, strong body supported her easily. They started walking around the barn, following a narrow path lined with trees. Maria's heart pounded with each step. The ground beneath the horse's hooves was uneven, and she felt every small shift in weight. She focused on keeping her back straight and her legs steady, listening to the soft clopping of Blue's hooves. "You're doing well," Hank said, walking beside them. "Keep your eyes forward, don't look down too much. Relax your shoulders, let the movement become natural." Maria tried to do as he said, and slowly the tension in her body began to ease. She started noticing the sounds around her, the wind rustling through the trees, the distant call of birds, the faint sound of a creek nearby. It was peaceful, almost magical, and for a moment she forgot her fears entirely. But then Blue sensed something in the distance, a dog running near the fence, and shifted suddenly. Maria tensed instinctively and her stomach lurched. She gripped the reins tightly, afraid she might fall. Hank quickly walked closer, his calm presence reassuring her. "It's okay," he said. "She's just reacting to something new. Keep your balance. Trust her." Maria closed her eyes for a second, took a deep breath, and loosened her grip. She let Blue move naturally, feeling the strength and rhythm beneath her. Slowly, her confidence returned. She realized that falling was not the end of the world. Mistakes could happen, but she could recover, learn, and keep going. After walking for a while, Hank suggested they try a short trot. Maria's heart jumped. Trotting meant a faster pace, more movement, and more opportunity to lose balance. But she nodded, determined to face the challenge. Hank adjusted Blue's gait, and Maria leaned slightly forward, following the horse's rhythm. At first, the trot felt unnatural. Her stomach bounced with every step, and her hands hurt from gripping the reins too tightly. But then she remembered the breathing exercises Hank had taught her. She focused on her breathing, letting her body move with Blue instead of resisting. Slowly, the movement became smoother. She felt a sense of exhilaration, a thrill she had never experienced before. "You're a natural," Hank said with a small smile. "See, I told you just needed to trust yourself." Maria laughed, a bright, joyful sound that surprised even her. She realized she had been holding herself back for years, letting fear and doubt control her. And now, for the first time, she felt free, moving in harmony with the horse beneath her. After the trot, they returned to the barn for a short break. Maria dismounted carefully, her legs a little sore but her heart full. She patted Blue gently, whispering words of thanks. Blue nuzzled her hand, and Maria felt a deep connection with the animal. It was more than just riding, it was trust, understanding, and respect. Hank handed her a water bottle and sat down on a nearby hay bale. "You're doing better than you think," he said. "Most people come here thinking it's about the horses, but it's really about learning about themselves, about patience, courage, and persistence. You're proving that already." Maria smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It was one thing to hear encouraging words, another to feel them in action. She realized that every step, every challenge was teaching her something valuable, not just about riding, but about life. They spent the rest of the morning practicing different skills, walking through narrow paths, guiding Blue around obstacles, and learning to read the horse's body language. Maria noticed little things, how Blue's ears twitched when she was curious, how her tail swished when she was calm, how her muscles shifted under Maria's weight. Every detail mattered, and Maria felt her confidence grow with each passing moment. By midday, they moved to a larger field for more practice. The open space was daunting at first. The ground was uneven, with hidden dips and rocks, and the wind blew freely across the fields, making the horses more alert. Maria felt her nerves rise again. "Remember what I told you," Hank said. "Breathe, trust yourself, trust Blue. It's a bigger challenge, yes, but you've faced small ones before. Now you're ready for this." Maria nodded, her hands tightening around the reins for just a moment before she loosened them. She guided Blue into the field, feeling the wind rush past her face. At first, the horse hesitated, picking her steps carefully, but Maria stayed calm, her eyes focused, her movements steady. Slowly, Blue began to move more confidently, picking up a gentle trot. Maria felt a rush of pride. She was doing it. She was controlling a large, powerful horse across open fields, and she was doing it well. Her doubts, the voice in her head that said she was too big or not strong enough, began to fade. She realized that her body was capable, her mind was capable, and her spirit was capable. As they moved through the field, Maria noticed other horses watching from a distance. Some approached curiously, their movements graceful and calm. She felt a sense of belonging, a connection not just to Blue, but to all the animals around her. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel judged or out of place. She felt accepted, respected, and strong. Hank walked alongside her, giving occasional tips and encouragement. "Keep your balance," he said. "Use your core, not just your arms. Let your legs guide you. Good, that's it. You're doing excellent." Maria smiled, feeling proud of herself. Every word of encouragement, every small success, was building her confidence. She realized that the ranch wasn't just teaching her about horses. It was teaching her about life, about facing challenges, about trusting herself, and about never letting fear hold her back. After several hours of practice, they returned to the barn. Maria dismounted, her muscles tired but her heart full. She patted Blue gently, whispering words of gratitude. Hank smiled at her, his eyes reflecting pride and warmth. "You've come a long way today," he said. "Remember this feeling. Remember that you can do more than you think. And don't forget, you're never too big to face a challenge. You just need to trust yourself." Maria nodded, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had started the day nervous and unsure, but she was ending it with a new sense of confidence and purpose. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps even harder ones, but she also knew that she was ready. As she walked back to the small cabin where she would stay, Maria reflected on the day. Every trot, every careful step, every moment of fear and triumph had taught her something valuable. She realized that being too big had only existed in her mind. Her strength, her courage, and her willingness to try were what mattered. And for the first time in a long time, she felt proud of who she was. She sat by the window that evening, watching the sunset paint the fields in gold and orange. The horses moved quietly in the distance, and the wind carried the soft scent of hay and earth. Maria smiled to herself, thinking about the journey ahead. She knew there would be challenges, doubts, and mistakes, but she also knew that she was stronger than she had ever believed. And with Hank's guidance and Blue's trust, she was ready to face them all. The next morning, Maria woke up before sunrise. The soft light of early morning filtered through the small cabin window, painting the room in pale gold. She felt a mix of excitement and curiosity bubbling inside her. The past 2 days had been challenging but rewarding. She had learned more about the horses, about balance, and about her own courage than she ever thought possible. But today, something felt different. Today, she wanted to explore the barn more closely, beyond the lessons Hank had given her. After a quick breakfast, she grabbed her gloves and notebook and walked toward the barn. The air was crisp and carried the familiar scent of hay, earth, and the horses themselves. The ranch seemed alive in the quiet morning light. The soft clopping of hooves, the low whinnies of horses greeting each other, and the occasional flap of a bird's wings made her feel connected to the land in a way she had never felt in the city. Hank was already there, inspecting the fencing and making small repairs. He nodded at her. "Good morning, Maria. Ready for today's work?" Maria smiled. "Yes, sir, but I was thinking maybe I could explore the barn a little more, see if there's anything interesting." "Just to learn more about the ranch," Hank chuckled softly. "Curiosity is good, just don't get in the way of chores and always be careful. The barn has a lot of history and some parts are fragile. Take your time, but pay attention." Maria nodded eagerly. She had always been curious about history and hidden stories. The thought that the ranch might have secrets waiting for her made her heart race. She started by walking slowly along the barn walls, touching the old wood, feeling its rough texture, noticing the scratches and marks left over decades. Each mark told a story, horses rubbing against the beams, tools hanging from hooks, evidence of years of hard work and care. Her eyes landed on an old wooden trapdoor near the back corner of the barn. It was partially covered with hay and dust, almost as if it was meant to be forgotten. Maria's curiosity piqued. She crouched down, brushing away the hay, and examined the door. It was small, old, and slightly warped, but the hinges still looked strong. Her heart beat faster. What could be underneath? She looked around to make sure Hank wasn't watching too closely, then carefully lifted the trapdoor. It creaked loudly as it opened, revealing a dark space beneath the floorboards. A small staircase led down into a storage area. Dust swirled in the light as she peered inside. Maria felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. What had been hidden here for so long? Taking a deep breath, she grabbed a flashlight from her bag and climbed down slowly. The air smelled of old wood, earth, and a faint hint of leather. The space was small but filled with items carefully stacked and preserved. Old tools, farming equipment, and bundles of letters tied with faded ribbons were neatly arranged on shelves. Maria's eyes widened. She had stumbled upon a treasure trove of history. She picked up a bundle of letters and untied the ribbon carefully. The handwriting was beautiful, flowing, and delicate. The letters told stories of people who had worked on the ranch decades ago, their struggles, triumphs, and everyday life. Some letters spoke of harsh winters when crops failed, of horses that had been sick and needed care, and of the dedication it took to keep the ranch alive. Others were personal, expressing hopes, dreams, and moments of joy. Maria felt a connection to these people she had never met. She could almost hear their voices, see their lives unfolding in her mind. They had faced challenges, doubts, and hardships, just like she had faced her fears about being too big or capable enough. And yet they had persevered. They had trusted themselves and the land, just as she was learning to trust herself and the horses. As she explored further, she found old photographs carefully placed in a wooden box. Black and white images of men and women, some holding horses, others standing proudly in front of the barns, brought a smile to her face. She recognized the resemblance in the layout of the ranch and some of the horses. It was as if she could feel the passage of time, the weight of generations who had poured their hearts into this land. Hank's voice called softly from above. "Maria, everything okay down there?" "Yes, sir, I found something amazing," she called back, her voice full of excitement. "There's a whole storage area under the barn with letters, photos, and old tools." Hank climbed down slowly, his eyes widening when he saw what she had discovered. "Ah," he said, his voice soft. "Not many people know about this." This was my father's way of preserving the ranch's history. He wanted to make sure future generations understood the work, the struggles, and the care that went into it. I see you found it. Good. Maria felt a deep respect for Hank and his family. She realized that the ranch wasn't just land or animals. It was a living story of resilience, dedication, and love. She carefully placed the letters and photos back where she had found them, making sure everything was preserved. Then she climbed back up, feeling as if she had been given a secret gift. Hank handed her a cup of water. "You've got a good eye and a good heart," he said. "The history of this ranch isn't just in books or photos. It's in the land, the horses, and the work we do every day. And now you've seen it firsthand. Remember that?" Maria nodded, sipping her water. She felt inspired. The discovery had changed something inside her. She realized that just like the ranch had survived harsh winters, droughts, and challenges, she too could overcome her fears and doubts. Life wasn't about being perfect. It was about persistence, patience, and care. The rest of the day was spent learning more practical skills. Maria helped feed the horses, cleaned the stalls, and assisted Hank in preparing the fields for planting. But in her mind, she kept thinking about the hidden storage, the letters, and the photographs. She thought about the people who had worked so hard to keep the ranch alive. Their courage and dedication reminded her that everyone faces obstacles, but with effort and trust, they can overcome them. During a break, Maria sat on a hay bale, sketching some of the letters and tools in her notebook. She wrote down observations, small notes about the stories she had read, and reflections about her own life. She realized that the lessons from the past were not just about farming, they were about life, perseverance, and believing in oneself. Hank watched her quietly, smiling. "You're learning more than just ranch work," he said. "You're learning about life. That's the most important lesson you can ever have. The horses and the land will teach you skills, yes, but it's the history and the stories that teach you wisdom." Maria nodded, feeling a sense of pride and connection she had never felt before. For the first time, she saw herself not just as a visitor or learner, but as part of a bigger story. The ranch, the horses, and the people who had worked here before were all threads in the same tapestry, and now she was weaving her own thread into it. As the sun began to lower in the sky, painting the fields with shades of orange and gold, Maria felt a quiet peace. She had faced challenges, discovered secrets, and learned lessons that went beyond physical strength. She had begun to understand the power of patience, the importance of history, and the strength that comes from trusting oneself. Before leaving the barn, she returned to the hidden storage one more time. She carefully closed the trapdoor, brushing away the hay as if sealing a treasure chest. She felt a deep sense of responsibility. The history she had uncovered was valuable, not just for her, but for anyone who came to the ranch in the future. She made a mental promise to honor it, to learn from it, and to carry the lessons forward. Walking back toward the cabin, Maria reflected on the past few days. Each experience had taught her something important. Yesterday, she had learned to trust herself on the horse. Today, she had learned to respect the past and understand the struggles that came before her. She realized that life was a series of lessons, each building on the last, and that growth came from facing challenges, no matter how daunting they seemed. As she sat by the window that evening watching the sunset, Maria wrote in her notebook, "The ranch is more than land. It's history, courage, and heart. If they could overcome, I can too. I am not too big. I am capable. I am ready." For the first time in years, she felt a deep sense of confidence. She had faced fear, discovered beauty in the past, and found inspiration in stories of perseverance. The journey ahead would still have challenges, but she knew she had the strength, patience, and courage to face them. And she knew that the ranch, the horses, and the wisdom of the generations before her would always guide her. The morning air was cool and crisp as Maria stepped out of the cabin. Sunlight spilled across the ranch, turning the fields golden and making the horses' coats shine. She felt a calm confidence as she walked toward the barn. The past days had changed her in ways she could feel but not fully explain. She no longer thought of herself as too big or incapable. She was strong, patient, and ready to face any challenge the ranch could throw at her. Hank was already working with Blue, brushing her coat carefully. When he saw Maria approaching, he smiled, tipping his hat. "Ready for another day?" he asked. Maria nodded. "Yes, sir. I want to practice more writing and I want to help with whatever needs doing." Hank's eyes softened. "Good, that's the spirit." They started the day with routine chores. Maria fed the horses, checked water troughs, and helped prepare the stables. Each task felt familiar now, and she moved with a quiet confidence that hadn't been there on her first day. She could feel the strength in her arms and legs, and her balance on the horse had improved remarkably. But more importantly, she felt her mind and spirit had grown. The insecurities that once held her back had begun to fade. After the chores, Hank suggested they ride to the far fields, a place Maria had not yet explored. The thought made her heart beat faster, not from fear this time, but from excitement. She had faced smaller challenges, trotted across open fields, and discovered the hidden history of the ranch. Now it was time for a bigger test, riding alone across a wide, uneven field with Blue. "Remember everything we've practiced," Hank reminded her. "Breathe, trust yourself, and trust Blue. Take it slow, one step at a time. You've got this." Maria took a deep breath, swinging her leg over the saddle. She felt Blue beneath her, strong and steady. The horse nuzzled her hand, and she patted her gently, feeling a warm connection. Slowly, they started walking toward the open field. The wind blew softly, carrying the scent of grass and hay. Maria felt a thrill of freedom. As they entered the field, the ground stretched endlessly before her. Rolling hills, dotted with wildflowers, seemed to invite her to explore. She encouraged Blue to pick up a trot. At first, the horse hesitated slightly, but Maria kept her movement steady, her posture relaxed, and her voice calm. Slowly, Blue moved faster, trotting with confidence. Maria laughed softly, the sound carried by the wind. She felt exhilarated, powerful, and free. For the first time, she realized that her size did not limit her. Her strength, patience, and courage did, and those qualities were more than enough. They rode across the field, maneuvering through gentle slopes and small streams. Maria felt her balance and coordination improving with every step. She noticed how Blue responded to her commands, how the horse's ears turned to listen to her, how her body moved with the rhythm of the mare. It was a partnership built on trust, and Maria had earned it. After riding for a while, they stopped near a small grove of trees. Maria dismounted, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. She walked around, stretching her legs, and looked out over the fields. The ranch seemed more alive than ever. Every corner held a story, every animal a presence, and every day a lesson. Hank joined her carrying a water bottle. "You've come a long way," he said. I've watched you grow from someone unsure to someone capable, confident, and determined. That's not just about riding a horse. That's about life." Maria smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She thought about the hidden storage under the barn, the letters and photographs of people who had worked hard to keep the ranch alive. She realized that their perseverance had inspired her, and now she was ready to carry that spirit forward in her own life. As the day went on, Maria continued working with the horses, helping Hank repair fences and learning how to train the younger animals. She noticed small improvements in herself every hour. Her balance was steadier, her hands stronger, her confidence higher. But it wasn't just physical growth. She felt emotionally stronger, more resilient, and more self-assured. During a break, Maria sat on a hay bale watching the horses graze. She thought about her journey over the past few days. She had come to the ranch feeling unsure, nervous, and full of self-doubt. She had feared that her size would hold her back. But now she realized that the fear had been in her mind all along. Her body had always been capable, her spirit always strong. She just needed to trust herself. Hank walked over and sat beside her. "You've learned a lot in a short time," he said. "Not just about horses, but about yourself. Remember this feeling, this confidence. Life will test you, but you're stronger than you think. You can handle challenges, big or small, if you stay calm and trust your abilities." Maria nodded, feeling a sense of gratitude. She had discovered so much about the ranch, the horses, and the people who had worked there before. And most importantly, she had discovered herself. She felt capable, confident, and proud. The rest of the afternoon was spent teaching some younger visitors about horse care. Maria realized she could guide others now, share what she had learned, and help them overcome their own fears. She felt a deep satisfaction in helping, in seeing others gain confidence just as she had. As the sun began to set, painting the fields in shades of orange and pink, Maria walked back to the barn with Hank. She patted Blue gently, whispering words of thanks and affection. The horse nuzzled her hand, and Maria smiled. She felt a bond she had never expected to have. Blue had trusted her, and in return, Maria had learned to trust herself. After securing the horses for the night, Maria took a moment to look around the barn. Everything felt familiar now, the smell of hay, the soft sounds of the animals, the warm, steady presence of Hank. She realized that this place had given her more than she had imagined. It had given her courage, confidence, and a sense of belonging. That evening, she sat by the cabin window, writing in her notebook. She reflected on everything she had learned. The importance of patience, the value of trust, the lessons from the ranch's history, and the power of believing in oneself. She wrote about the moments of fear and triumph, the small victories, and the lessons she would carry for the rest of her life. She also thought about the words Hank had said to her repeatedly. "Just sit down, you'll see." At first, they had seemed simple, almost too easy. But now Maria understood their meaning. They were not just about riding a horse. They were about life, facing challenges, trusting oneself, and taking the first step even when it feels impossible. As night fell, the ranch grew quiet. The stars appeared one by one in the clear sky, and the gentle sounds of the animals filled the air. Maria felt a deep sense of peace. She had faced her fears, discovered the ranch's hidden stories, learned from the animals, and found strength within herself. She felt empowered, ready to face whatever life had in store for her. In that moment, Maria realized something important. Her size, her past insecurities, and her doubts had never defined her. What mattered was her courage, her persistence, and her willingness to try. She had learned to trust herself, to embrace challenges, and to celebrate her successes, no matter how small. The next morning, Maria woke with a sense of purpose. She was no longer the nervous, unsure young woman who had arrived at the ranch. She was confident, capable, and proud. She looked out over the fields, watching the horses move gracefully in the sunlight, and felt a connection to the land, the animals, and the people who had worked here before her. She knew the journey ahead would have challenges, but she was ready. She had learned the value of patience, the importance of trust, and the strength that comes from believing in oneself. She smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment and hope. The ranch had not only taught her about horses and hard work, it had taught her about life, self-confidence, and the power of perseverance. As she prepared for another day, Maria whispered to herself, "I am ready. I am capable. I am enough." And for the first time in her life, she truly believed it. The ranch, with its rolling fields, gentle horses, and quiet wisdom, had given her more than she could have imagined. It had given her courage, strength, and a new sense of self. And as she walked toward the barn, ready to face the day, Maria felt a joy and peace that would stay with her forever.